So, yet again, boxing is under the microscope for all of the wrong reasons. We seem to get a new failed drugs test every week, and one name that keeps repeatedly cropping up is Dr. Usman Sajjad. In this video, we're going to be hearing from the man himself about his views on doping in boxing. But first, let's get a bit of a background. Dr. Usman Sajjad is a medical professional, widely recognised in the sport. He's worked with champions, he's worked with contenders and prospects, and he's no stranger at all to boxing's elites. However, his connection to fighters who have tested positive for banned substances has raised eyebrows around the world, yet the mainstream boxing media refuses to question or even acknowledge these allegations. He first gained recognition for his work on amateur circuit for England boxing, and I think that was between 2015 to 2020. He then made the switch from amateurs to professionals. I think it was with Louis Edmondson first. To this day, Edmondson hadn't failed any drugs test, as far as I know of. But the same can't be said for a lot of Dr. Usman's other clients. Most notably, he's worked with Tyson Fury, who's publicly failed 2 drugs tests and has allegedly avoided more by his many retirements. I think he's on is he on like 4 or 5 now? But I think the first test that he failed were for nandrolone. Let's have a look, am I saying that right? Yeah, nandrolone we'll go with. That's known to increase endurance, strength and overall muscle mass. And I think the second test was for the old Colombian marching powder, which that's known to leave users making terrible decisions and chatting shit in kitchens to the early hours, so there's not much benefit in the ring with that one. He also, and this is where the notoriety started, he worked with Conor Benn, who failed 2 tests in 2022 when he tested positive for clomiphene. That's obviously a banned substance that increases testosterone production in men. Obviously, elevated testosterone can increase strength, endurance, recovery, but I think it should be noted that athletes using steroids often take clomiphene after a cycle to sort of restore their natural testosterone production, which can often be suppressed when you're on, a cycle of steroids. But more recently, and I think this is in like the last few weeks, Dr. Usman worked with British super bantamweight Dennis McCann, who failed for 2 substances. I think that was drostanolone and trenbolone. Now, drostanolone is taken to improve strength without sort of like significant weight gain, and it also provides users with enhanced muscular density and definition. So, and let's be honest, Dennis McCann in the last however long, he's ripped as fuck, innit, really. So yeah, so that's all the public knowledge regarding the fighters he's worked with who have failed test, and I think it's time that we heard from the man himself. Now, come on, there's 0% chance he's going to come and discuss that with me, but luckily for us, he's done many interviews on the subject. So first of all, let's see what he's got to say about doping in boxing and if he's ever come across it.
But even like to the level of having a fluid transfusion after a weigh-in, that's illegal. And I know, there's a lot of boxers that do that.
Okay. Have you heard though in the grapevine? Obviously, I don't want you giving me name, but have you heard of people doing it then?
Yeah, a lot of people. We'll talk on camera. We'll talk off camera.
Okay. Interesting.
Like, to be honest, people that you'd be shocked, that you'd be like, what? What the what?
Now, after hearing that, does that sound like a man who has distanced himself from any wrongdoing in the sport of boxing? I'll let you be the judge of that. So we've established he knows fighters actively doping, but is it 1 in 10, maybe 2 in 10? Not on your Nelly.
Yeah, if you're like an elite level boxer, we're talking Sky pay-per-view, world class, European level. Yeah, 80 to 90% are doing it, from what I'm saying, and it might not just be, and when I say that, doping, it's not just steroids. You've got all sorts. You've got IV fluid infusions after weigh-ins. You've got diuretics. You've got growth hormones. You've got testosterone replacement. There's just a lot of stuff. You may have these sort of pre-workout drinks, which are banned. That anything, when you say doping, it doesn't just mean steroid use. There's a whole list of substances that are banned on the World Anti-Doping and
Yeah.
So it's clear that this is a widespread problem in the sport, coming from what most would call a reputable source. Now, I say that loosely, but we're not done yet. You'd think your average ethical doctor would oppose such actions in sport and definitely not justify it.
They'll train 5-6 days a week, okay? They'll be doing 2 sessions a day, morning and afternoon or evening. Those sessions will each be about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So they may be training 4 to 5 hours a day, yeah? How's your body supposed to recover from that? Like training 5-6 days a week, training 4-5 hours a day. So you're training about 25-26 hours a week. Strenuous, hard exercise. Not talking going on a brisk walk every time. We're talking where your max heart rate is maybe 170, 180, and the average is like 140, 150, you know how they. So you've got to think, this is an 8-week camp. How are their bodies supposed to recover? The muscles are supposed to recover. And the sparring they're doing as well. It's not like 3 rounds of sparring. They may do 8-9 rounds of sparring where they'll get fresh partners in every 2 rounds. With someone that's boxed myself as well, it's fucking exhausting. Like, and then coming home, and then you've got strength and conditioning later on, or sprints or something like that. It's just, And then on top of that, if they have to make weight as well, they're cutting down the carb consumption, cutting down the calories. So towards the end of the camp, they lose that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's just, and on top of that, evidence has shown, medical evidence, that with strenuous exercise and weight cutting, your natural testosterone levels drop. I've tested the boxers where I've tested their testosterone level 2-3 weeks before a fight or even out of camp, and they've had low testosterone levels because they're training hard, they're cutting weight, and testosterone is there to help with muscle growth. It's obviously a male hormone for libido and energy, but it's there for muscle growth and recovery. More testosterone, more muscle growth. So naturally, if their testosterone levels are depleted, they're depleting more and more with the strenuous training. How are they going to recover? So that's when the external sources come in. Does that make sense?
Now, I'm not pointing the finger exactly, but going off what we've heard so far, it don't look great, does it? Anyway, does everyone who takes PADs end up looking like a Greek god?
Judgment.
Let me put it this way: just because someone has a fleshy body or a belly, or doesn't mean that they're doping. That doesn't mean that they're not doping. Like, here's an example: James Toney, when he beat Evander Holyfield, he looked like a mess, didn't he? He looked fleshy, and he fell for growth hormones or anabolic steroids. So, looking at someone's body and seeing how they're ripped doesn't necessarily think they're one's taking it and they're not.
Okay, come on now. Is this just a random example, or is this a man advocating for doping and hiding in plain sight? You tell me. What about the excuses that these fighters come up with when they failed the drugs test? Are any of them believable?
In terms of excuses, no, I don't really believe them, because you've got to think, before athletes know what's going to happen if they fail. They will tell their nutritionist, they'll tell their doctor, their strength and conditioning. So someone will pull them up and be like, "No, don't take that." And a lot of times, how the drug testing system works, all the fights in the UK, it's all urine testing. Okay, so you have to be an idiot to fail a drug test in England.
So there you have it, from the man himself. You cannot believe any of these excuses. I mean, Fury, what were his excuse? Uncastrated boar meat when he failed his test. And then they were bloody 50 eggs with Conor Benn. No, thank you. I'm not buying that, and I don't think any of you lot are. So that brings us to the end of the video. We've heard from Dr. Usman. We've looked at the fighters and what they're failing for. I have got to say though, the purpose of this video isn't to vilify Dr. Usman. It's simply to highlight the coincidences of him working with fighters who have failed tests. This is an ongoing investigation for the British Boxing Board of Control, who are looking into the workings of the man in question. But what do you think? Is there more that meets the eye? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.